thanks for watching. And be sure to click that thumbs up down below there. You know that thing right down there? Yeah, click the thumbs up if you like the content. And share it out to your friends and your social media sites, Facebook and Twitter. And help the algorithms get this video recommended to me. Okay, you got it? Thumbs up. Thanks. I appreciate that.
Tell me what it says. I see the handwriting on the wall.
Well, we were told Black Lives Matter movement was all about social justice, weren't we? Indeed, we were told that Black Lives Matter's mission was one championed by Dr. Martin Luther King, improving the lives of ordinary African-American people. Now that narrative is falling apart. With the news, the organisation's leadership secretly spent $6 million on a lavish Los Angeles mansion. For more on this, I want to bring in the author of Unmasked, Inside Antifa's Radical Plan to Destroy Democracy, independent journalist Andy No. Andy, I really appreciate your time. Australians are watching this BLM circus start to unravel. What are they doing buying an LA mansion?
Well, the reporting that's coming out now finally is shedding a true light on what BLM actually is, which is, in my view, a grifting organization that uses and exploits people's willingness to fight for racial justice into enriching themselves. This is not the first $6 million mansion that Black Lives Matter has purchased. It was revealed in other reporting that they had, the Black Lives Matter global network had sent $6 million over to its sister group in Canada for the purchase of the Toronto mansion. And then also there was reporting in the New York Post that last year that revealed that one of the co-founders, Patricia Cullors, had a multi-million-dollar personal home estate empire where she purchased multiple homes. So the DOJ of California had issued the organization earlier this year as a warning, letting them know that the nonprofit was delinquent because it had not completed its obligations of filing the various paperworks as a so-called nonprofit. The fact that a organization that was so, in my view, morally bankrupt was able to hoodwink the international community, corporations into sending them tens and tens and tens of millions of dollars. I think that's the question we need to be asking is why weren't people able to apply their own critical faculties to take apart the various claims that BLM had been making for a number of years, which are disprovable by the data, by the way. But it's good that this reporting is coming out, and we all owe the investigative journalists the thank you for digging through the paperwork, because BLM actually tried to hide the trail of these purchases by using intermediary people to purchasing through an LLC, etc. They did not want this information coming out. And now that it has,
no, they don't.
Predictably, they're blaming white supremacy, blaming right-wing media, blaming white supremacist terrorism, etc. You name it.
I just want to ask you, I mean, you talk about their revenue model. We know there were dozens and dozens of top businesses, companies like Uber, IBM, sent them a lot of money. Surely these organisations and their boards and their shareholders have got to rethink their association with BLM.
I hope they do, but I'm not optimistic that they will. What happened after George Floyd died is that BLM was elevated to this, like a godlike figure that you could not blaspheme if you said anything critical about the movement, because they made claims that were inaccurate. You were deemed a racist, as I personally experienced. You were subjected to cancel campaigns and sometimes even violence. So
It's very difficult. All right, Andy, no, we'll leave it there. Thank you for giving us that update.
You know, the rapidly rising I don't know.
Pete Buttigieg.
I was foot.
We're the only outfit in the country that is immune. Imagine had the tobacco industry been immune to prostitute being sued. Come on.
Has been the pandemic. So to that, it's been presented as an issue that is economic in the way of its impact has been the pandemic. So to that end, we are announcing today also that we will assist Jamaica in COVID recovery by assisting in terms of the recovery efforts in Jamaica that have been essential to, I believe, what is necessary to strengthen not only the issue of public health, but also the economy.
Have you ever had a dream that you could do so?
Pell Grants have been increased. Yeah, Pell Grants have you increased Pell Grants?
We have definitely extended it's something that I think we need to keep doing, the awareness about what we have to do on Pell Grants, and I can follow up with you on specifically what we've been doing. But
okay.
I can tell you that when I was in the Senate, I was definitely working on the Pell Grant issue because it can't be what it was when I was at Howard.
Gay law now, which he says will kill kids. Do you agree? And, you know, as a politician, because this strikes you as, you know, your husband is a teacher.
Yeah.
You are obviously LGBTQ yourself, and you are now a parent.
Yeah.
So how do you feel about this?
He's right. And I think every law ought to be judged for the effect it's going to have on real people in real life. And I get the political reasons why they're doing this. By the way, some of those political reasons is they don't have a plan on anything else, right? I mean, they don't have a plan on dealing with inflation or dealing with gas prices or dealing with the issues of
We
the
can't
day.
get home insurance in Florida.
Can we stop for ice cream on the way home, Mom? I don't know about it. Please.
Ready for Kumite? Yes, Sensei. Fight this. Hajime, begin! I'm dominating.
I never said you were fighting children.
Well, it's not the size of the opponent, Elaine. It's the ferocity.
He receives a question about the parental rights and education law and then immediately pivots to inflation and high gas prices and somehow pins it on Ron DeSantis, the governor of Florida. And here's where this backfires spectacularly and once again shows the utter incompetence of this administration. What is Pete Buttigieg's job? What is his title in this White House? Secretary of Transportation. I seem to think the Secretary of Transportation is kind of the guy who's in charge of tackling issues when it comes to the supply chain, which is of course related to higher gas prices and inflation. I'm pretty sure Ron DeSantis isn't the person who needs to be doing something about inflation and high gas prices. That's Pete Booty Butt Cheeks. That's literally his job. And I find it really interesting because a couple months ago when the Los Angeles port was completely clogged up and they couldn't get people to work at the port declog the supply chain, who stepped in once again? Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, who called on cargo ships to make their way to the state of Florida, which is, by the way, something he's still doing. Here's a release on floridagovernor.com on Ron DeSantis' website. Governor Ron DeSantis announces shipping company shifting operations from backlogged California port to Jack's port. So it seems as though Ron DeSantis is actually the only one actually doing something to combat inflation and supply chain woes. I mean, talk about clueless. Oh, and speaking of clueless and speaking of Pete Buttigieg's incompetence, watch. Pete Buttigieg is shocked to hear that black voters feel that Democrats don't keep their promises.
You do realize, Pete, a lot of black people feel like Democrats have kept no promises since they've been in office.
Really?
Yes. Reverend Howland said that a million times. I'm sure he'll be pressing you about that tomorrow.
Look, I get it.
Incompetent, clueless, out of touch, living on a different planet in an alternate reality. These Democrats have absolutely no idea what they're doing, what they're talking about. They are utterly unqualified for the positions they're in, period.
The college swimming championships in Atlanta, Georgia, a group of protesters are calling on the NCAA to save women's sports, protect athletes, and protect fairness. Inside that stadium is an athlete who has been making waves all season. Just hours ago, Leah Thomas became the first known transgender woman to win a Division I swimming title. She placed first in the 500-yard freestyle and could win more races in the coming days. Some of her teammates say it is just not fair, adding that they can't compete with Leah because she is biologically different from them. Tonight, for the first time on television, one of the most famous female athletes in history is weighing in. Tennis player Martina Navratilova, with 18 Grand Slam singles titles, including 9 Wimbledon championships, 31 Grand Slam doubles titles, and also one of the first openly gay athletes. Martina is now a champion of LGBT rights, and in an exclusive interview with Rich McHugh, she says it is the NCAA that has this wrong, and what is happening in the pool in Atlanta is about way more than swimming.
Where do you come out on Leah Thomas, whether she should be competing in the NCAA championships?
Well, we're pointing fingers not at Leah at all. She has been playing by the book. Whatever the rules are, she's supposedly has been playing by them, have been taking hormone replacement therapy for a couple of years now. This is not about Leah. This is about clearly as a man, when she was swimming as a man, she was finishing 200, 300, 400. Now she is finishing first. Which shows to me, if she had been born female in the first place, she would not be succeeding the way she is succeeding now.
Navratilova, a champion of LGBT rights, is a member of the Women's Sports Policy Working Group, pushing for fairness and safety for females instead of blanket transgender inclusion or exclusion in women's sports. Leah spoke to Sports Illustrated recently and says, I am a woman, I should be competing on the women's team. Do you agree with that?
Everybody wants to swim as a female because it's an easier field, I think, to compete in. Leah, I don't agree that she should be allowed to swim, but again, she's going by the rules. So the rules need to change. The rules need to change because this is not a fair fight. If I was a female swimmer, I don't have a chance. I really don't have a chance to be competing against Leah.
Is the NCAA at fault for allowing Leah to compete?
Well, no, it's not about Leah now. It's they kick the can down the road. NCAA, all the governing bodies of sports, they kick the can down the road, particularly the IOC. They really don't want anything to do with it. And what the rules that they set without any meaningful conversation from experts, from scientists, from athletes themselves. They just kind of did it in a vacuum. They still, to this day, they don't want to talk about it. And they want the different sports bodies make the decisions and set the rules, but then they're not adhering to them anyway. Now they're saying it's going to be next year. We'll see. but they need to do a better job, and they need to get these scientific experts in the field that say, okay, this is how it needs to go. Otherwise, the controversy will continue.
Clinton, I just want to teach you much. I'm sorry. I just wanted to say thank you for elevating black voices before it was cool. Seriously.
Thank you. That's so good.
I just wanted to ask Shirley Teeter. She was recently ordered to pay Project Veritas's legal expenses relating from a lawsuit.
I don't understand.
Yeah, she was linked to Democracy Partners. Your good friend Bob Kramer.
Hillary is aware of all the work that you guys do. I hope.
The campaign is fully in it.
And then they tell Hillary what's going on.
Well, I mean, Hillary knows through the chain of command.
Yeah.
You remember Democracy Partners?
I don't know about Kramer.
I just want to ask, will you pay her legal bills? She's an old woman. She's been ordered to pay legal bills.
I don't know Bob Kramer.
You don't know Bob Kramer, really?
The future president of the United States who wanted ducks on the ground. So by God, we will give ducks on the ground. Wow. Don't repeat that statement.
You don't know Shirley Teeter?
Mrs. Clinton, James only know Project Veritas. Are you going to pay Shirley Teeter's legal bills that she owes Project Veritas then? Your husband Bill Clinton spent so much time with Jeffrey Epstein.
It was unbelievable what we had. Clinton, we had everything.
Mrs. Clinton, Shirley Teeter, you're going to leave an old lady out to dry? She owes us money, Project Veritas. We expose everybody.
And now is a time when things are shifting. There's going to be a new world order out there, and we've got to lead.
All Xi Jinping can do now is to impose a zero COVID policy. This involves severe lockdowns at the slightest sign of an outbreak, but this is having negative effect on economic activity. And it is also inflicting severe hardship on the people who instantaneously quarantined wherever they are, and their complaints can't be silenced.
In contrast to Soviet times, pride marches have been held in Ukraine since 2015. Police escorts are present thanks to President Volodymyr Zelensky's government, which backs free speech and assembly for the LGBT+ community.
We will be back here on this square to celebrate with you a Ukraine that stands with Europe and stands with the United States.
рада вас видеть на нашей земле. Встретить.
Спасибо. Спасибо. С таким теплотой и любовью встречаете.
Хоть службу хоть послушаем, а то что мы живем как некрести.
Благословен гряды, во имя Господне, Богородице прилежно ныне придет всем, грешный, смиренный, приблаген, покоренный, зовущий сглубины души, Отца и Сына славословим, и Духа Святого глаголюще.
Бог, святый крепкий, святый бессмертный, помилуй нас, святый Бог, святый крепкий, святый бессмертный, помилуй нас, святый Боже, святый крепкий, святый бессмертный, помилуй нас.
And relatedly, is the United States willing to make a specific allocation for Ukrainian refugees?
A friend in need is a friend indeed.
Okay. In the early 1930s, millions of Ukraine's people died in a devastating famine. Known as the Holodomor, it is one of the most tragic chapters in Ukrainian history. When Ukraine became a part of the Soviet Union in 1922, it was the country's breadbasket, thanks to its fertile fields of wheat. In 1928, Soviet leader Joseph Stalin introduced collectivization, which was supposed to unite privately owned farms into state collective farms called kolkhoz. The Soviet leadership argued that collective farms would be more effective and produce a surplus, which would feed industrial workers. As many Ukrainian peasants were not willing to hand over their land to the state, their fields were confiscated.
People could look back in 100 years and identify the coronavirus epidemic as the moment when a new regime of surveillance took over, especially surveillance under the skin, which I think is maybe the most important development of the 21st century.
Clearly, I consider the Trump administration a danger to the world, but I regard it as a purely temporary phenomenon that will disappear in 2020.
Well, I want to talk about the World Economic Forum's Young Global Leader, an actual agenda to reshape how the world economy runs. You will own nothing. The elites will own and run it all. But don't worry, you'll be happy. The idea seems to be to move towards a technocratic corporatism where every aspect of our lives is monitored and controlled by others. Now, Klaus Schwab, the founder of the WEF, is particularly upfront and even proud of his Great Reset agenda. He's built websites and even wrote a book. Another thing he's particularly proud of is his ability to shape and influence world politics through the World Economic Forum's Young Global Leaders program. Now, you might have caught some wind of this organization on a recent episode of Joe Rogan's podcast with his guest, Majid Nawaz. Let's watch this clip.
They call it on their own website, they call it the Great Reset. That's what they say themselves.
Yeah, that's a bizarre thing to do, to openly. Why do you think they openly discuss it that way? And openly, because the Great Reset has always been this gigantic conspiracy theory among the online folks. Like, this is all part of the Great Reset. Well, when he wrote a book called The Great Reset, you're like, hey, man, shouldn't you be hiding this?
And in 2017 at Harvard, he's saying, you know, we're going to basically, all of these world leaders will penetrate their cabinets with our young global leaders. He's open about it. He's open. Blair's open. During the Iraq War, Blair tried to bring in ID cards in Britain. He failed. Now he's back. And he's trying to bring in digital ID during COVID. Right? So they're open about it.
So this is going to be this never-ending process to slowly move the goalposts
towards more and more authoritarianism. Checkpoint society.
Xi Jinping is a true believer in communism. Mao Zedong and Vladimir Lenin are his idols. Xi Jinping's term in power ought to expire in 2022. But Xi, inspired by Lenin, has gained firm control of the military, and all other institutions of repression and surveillance, he has carefully choreographed the process that will elevate him to the level of Mao Zedong and Deng Xiaoping and make him ruler for life. President Biden has generally adopted the right policies. He told Putin that Russia will pay a heavy price if he attacks Ukraine. At the same time, Biden has made it clear to Xi Jinping that if he uses force against Taiwan, China will have to confront not only the U.S., but a larger alliance.
Mr. Trudeau, you are a disgrace for any democracy. Please spare us your presence. It would have been more appropriate for Mr. Trudeau, Prime Minister of Canada, to address this House according to Article 144, an article which was specifically designed to debate violations of human rights, democracy, and the rule of law, which is clearly the case with Mr. Trudeau.
And with the Prime Minister of Canada, the way he's behaving right now, he's exactly like a tyrant, like a dictator. He's like Ceausescu in Romania. If even you doubt, if you raise doubts about the vaccines, you're outcasted. When I saw the protests in Canada, you know, the way the truckers over there reacted, you know, I got in touch with some of them, others contacted me. I congratulated them, and I want to use this opportunity to thank them.
Invitation to Canadian PM Justin Trudeau is an invitation to someone who's been trampling on democratic rights, who's been cracking down on people who protested against disproportionate corona measures. Let us not give someone like this any speaking time in this house of democracy.
And over the past few months, it has become a symbol of violating basic human rights and civic freedoms. We have witnessed women being trampled by horses, single parents being their bank accounts are being blocked. This is a dictatorship of the worst kind.
I urge President Biden and Secretary Mayorkas to immediately put a stop to these expulsions and to end this Title 42 policy at our southern border. That we cannot continue these hateful and xenophobic Trump policies.
In addition, a relic, Title 42, exists. It is a relic of the Trump administration. It was created to be mean-spirited. Title 42, I ask for a suspension of it.
I urge the Biden administration and my colleagues to remember the refugees who are waiting at our border, kept out by the cruel and unnecessary Title 42 policy.
Look, Title 42 is being used in a way that I think is indiscriminate and that violates the basic essence of our law. But this process that the Biden administration has continued from the Trump administration, in my mind, is inexcusable.
So your kid has to wear a mask in school, but illegal aliens get to come here with no restrictions at all, despite the fact they may be infected with COVID, because otherwise you're a racist. Title 42 is being nullified. A similar rule, you should know, will still apply to you. American citizens are not exempt. To this day, you as a citizen are not allowed to return to the United States without permission from the CDC. Michelle Walensky will sign off on that. So coming back to the country you were born in is no longer your birthright, but illegal aliens now face no barriers at all. And of course, they know it. Everyone knows it. It's not their fault. It's our president's fault. According to Axios, quote, U.S. intelligence officials are privately bracing for a massive influx of more than 170,000 migrants at the Mexico border now that Title 42 is ending. So the wave grows, the total transformation of this country accelerates.
Title 42 rescinding it's a CDC order for the pandemic that allows this country to return people to the country of their origin, and that looks like it's going to be repealed, and already migrant caravans are forming to come to the border, maybe in larger numbers than last year?
Oh, much larger numbers than last year, Sean. They're expecting a tsunami, a wave of people coming from all over the world. I can tell you this, since fiscal year, so we're looking from October, the fiscal year of Border Patrol, October 2021, until now, there's been over 1 million apprehensions. I was told by a senior DHS official that 600,000 gotaways on top of those 1 million apprehensions were expected this year alone. And they're expecting more than 3 million people to be apprehended by the end of this fiscal year. It's absolutely incredible. And I was up there with DPS Air Patrol. And I can tell you the thing they are most concerned about, Sean, are the people that are coming over the mountains where I was at in camo, people that did not want to be captured. There were narcotics. We actually were able to fly over an area where 3 huge bundles of marijuana, over 300 pounds of marijuana, had been left in the Canyon Ridge to be picked up later. And the people disappeared. They disappeared, Sean, onto I-90, onto I-10. There's resources are limited, and it is a very, very dangerous situation. These are not people that want to be turning themselves into Border Patrol. These are people that are wearing camo. They are trying to get away. They are trying to blend into the environment. They are bringing fentanyl and other drugs, and very dangerous situation.
Hi, thanks for watching. And be sure to click that thumbs up down below there. You know that thing right down there? Yeah, click the thumbs up if you like the content. And share it out to your friends and your social media sites, Facebook and Twitter. And help the algorithms get this video recommended to me. Okay, you got it? Thumbs up. Thanks. I appreciate that.
Tell me what it says. I see the handwriting on the wall.
UPenn swimmer Leah Thomas becoming the first ever transgender athlete to win a Division I national championship.
Was pushed over the first 350 meters. Thomas wins the NCAA championship. Ended up very close for second, with Wyatt taking it ahead of a late charge from Erica Sullivan in third.
The cheers much louder for the runner-up than for Thomas. Thomas' accomplishment only adding to the big question, should she have been allowed to compete in the first place? Let's bring in with us now Caitlyn Jenner, who's got a lot
I didn't have a whole lot of expectations for this meet. I was just happy to be here trying to race and compete as best as I could.
You've undoubtedly been under the spotlight over the past few months. How have you been dealing with that and reasoning with everything?
I try to ignore it as much as I can. I try to focus on my swimming, what I need to do to get ready for my races, and just try to block out everything else.
But also with that comes some integrity about what you're doing. She can't block it all out because obviously I think she could have swam that race a lot faster. And she didn't because she didn't want to get too much attention. If she, yeah, we'll see how it all works out. I think she was probably taking it very easy in the race because she knew the world was watching, and she's just going to go fast enough to be able to win the race. Now, I've said from the beginning, I have no problem with Leah Thomas. Leah Thomas has followed the rules, and she's able to swim because of that. My problem that I have here is with the NCAA, really going all the way up to the Olympic Committee, other organizations that have allowed this to happen. She's playing within the rules. What I've said from the beginning is the rules aren't tough enough. Just being on testosterone depressants for a year or two, whatever the rules are right now, because they keep changing, obviously is not enough. Leah Thomas just dominated in the pool, and I'm sure she took it quite easily because she didn't want to win by too much. And I'm sure she took it quite easily because she didn't want to win by too much. So, yeah, that's kind of where we're at right now. And honestly, that goes viral, and it's been kind of all over. But I am getting so tired of this woke world. I've done so much for the trans community, bringing this issue forward, put millions of dollars through my foundation into groups and worked so hard to do it. I don't think anybody deserves that. But, you know, that's the bigger story is the woke world is out there and we're fighting it. And
Hi, thanks for watching. And be sure to click that thumbs up down below there. You know that thing right down there? Yeah, click the thumbs up if you like the content. And share it out to your friends and your social media sites, Facebook and Twitter. And help the algorithms get this video recommended to me. Okay, you got it? Thumbs up. Thanks. I appreciate that.